Every so often in our history, a few exceptionally gifted individuals grab the attention of mankind. They do so because they have pioneered a breakthrough in some critical area of life. And they do so because they so firmly believe in what they have to offer that they are prepared to expose themselves to widespread scrutiny. Frank Ludde is one such man, and I have seen him openly welcome a full examination of his therapy. Those who may be afraid to believe that a cure can exist because their doctor and everyone else has said it's not possible should remind themselves that health is their natural state.
His treatment works. You have a guarantee that it works because of all the people I've seen in the past, people with cancer, people with arthritis. I've never seen results like this before in my life.
Frank gives you the absolute best ingredients. The goal is, and it's an actual fact, he makes you so healthy that you can't possibly be ill.
His message was quite simple, and it made ultimate sense. It was, you have to have all the building blocks in your body, and then there can be no disease and the body heals itself.
One thing, though, that sat very wrong with me from the outset or onset is diseases are not meant to be here, and one is born healthy. Does everything right, then one should stay healthy. Yet, everybody is, almost everybody thinks or is convinced that at one time or another we get sick. I have, since 1988, without the shadow of a doubt, developed the cure and prevention for every known disease. And I am convinced, and I know, if new diseases will come up, I will heal them too. Metabolic therapy is based on the miracle of life. It is based on the distinct knowledge that the body is able and can heal itself, provided it is given all the natural nutritional ingredients it needs, and provided it is enabled to absorb, assimilate, and synthesize these ingredients. Everything I use in metabolic therapy is 100% natural. Only natural ingredients can be therapeutic. Drugs do not have any therapeutic ingredients or properties and can therefore not heal anything. The body is managed by the body's command center.
The term limbic means border or fringe. Thus, the limbic system refers to a ring structure that forms a border around the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum connects the cerebral hemispheres. In this illustration of the limbic system, the direction in which the impulses flow is indicated by the arrows. The limbic system mainly controls the person's emotional behavior and drive. Its primary function is related to experiences and expressions of mood, feeling, and emotion, especially the reactions of fear, rage, and emotions related to sexual behavior. External stimuli, friendly or unfriendly, are absorbed at the periphery of the limbic system. The thalamus is composed of two large oval structures, each with a complex nuclei, which are connected with the hypothalamus. It is an important relay station in the brain. All the main sensory pathways from synapses with thalamic nuclei on their way to the cerebral cortex. The thalamus acts as center of uncritical sensation through which the individual becomes conscious of pain, pressure, simple touch, vibratory sense, and extremes of temperature. For example, pain can be felt, but it cannot be localized. The thalamus also plays a key role in the integration of motor expressions. Evidence suggests that the thalamus is also the center for subconscious responses. The two green oval structures are the thalamus. The narrow black structure below the thalamus is the hypothalamus. The round structure at the bottom of the illustration is the pituitary gland. The hypothalamus lies beneath the thalamus. The hypothalamus has a volume of only 5 to 6 centimeters cubed. It represents less than 1% of brain mass. Nevertheless, it is the most important of all output pathways of the limbic system. It controls many of the internal conditions of the body as well as all aspects of behavior. Such conditions as temperature, osmosis of body fluids, the drives to eat and drink, sexual and reproductive behavior, and many others. The green structure in the center indicates the anterior hypothalamic nucleus, while the dark blue structure on the left indicates the posterior hypothalamus. The autonomic signals are transmitted to the body through two major subdivisions called the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. The innervation of all tissues other than skeletal muscle is by way of the autonomic nervous system. In the case of the intestinal tract, the autonomic nervous system innervates the neurons that are part of the enteric nervous system. This illustration shows in detail at which points the individual organs are innervated. Although the parasympathetic division is shown only on the left side of the figure and the sympathetic division is shown only on the right side, keep in mind that each division is actually on both sides of the body. The endocrine system is made up of glands which synthesize and secrete hormones. The endocrine system helps maintain and regulate vital functions such as response to stress and injury, growth and development, reproduction, and energy metabolism. When injury or stress occurs, the endocrine system triggers a series of responses aimed at maintaining blood pressure and preserving life. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis is chiefly involved in this response. Tissues and cells live in an internal environment which remain constant. The endocrine system participates in the regulation of this internal environment through maintenance of sodium, potassium, water, and acid-base balance. The calcium concentration is also controlled by endocrine function. Calcium is required for regulation of many biochemical reactions in living cells and for normal activation of muscle cell functions. The endocrine system acts as a regulator of energy metabolism. The metabolic rate is increased by thyroid hormone, and energy is made available to cells through integrated action of gastrointestinal and pancreatic hormones. The central nervous system is connected to the pituitary gland through the hypothalamus. This is the most clearly established link between the central nervous system and the endocrine system. The two systems are interrelated by both neural and vascular connections. Blood vessels link the hypothalamus with the cells of the anterior pituitary gland. These blood vessels end in capillaries at both ends and are known as the portal system. The portal system connects the hypothalamus with the pituitary gland. The portal system allows for the movement of releasing hormones from the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland, enabling the hypothalamus to modulate pituitary function. The pituitary gland responds to these releasing hormones by discharging pituitary tropic hormones. In this chain of events, the hormones which are released by the pituitary gland travel with the blood and stimulate glands, causing the release of target gland hormones. The target gland hormones, in turn, act upon the neural mechanism of the pituitary cells and modify hormone secretion, also called feedback control. An example for feedback control is release of TSH, releasing hormone, TRH, which is secreted by the hypothalamus and causes the pituitary to secrete TSH. In turn, TSH stimulates the thyroid to secrete thyroxine. Thyroxine then feeds back on the pituitary and inhibits production of TSH.
By the time I met Frank in '91, I was just shuffling along. I was very weak. My essence was, I was getting to be more opaque, and to the point of, I felt like I was just disappearing into this disease, and the disease was becoming the predominant thing. And my condition that I had for about 11 years was called ankylosing spondylitis, and also involved with that was Reiter's syndrome, and also involved with that was iritis, and that's a arthropathy that affects the eyes. And I was diagnosed with this in about 1980. From having a red toe that wouldn't go away. And then from there it just progressed really quickly, started ping-ponging through my whole body until you could say nearly every joint in my whole system was affected. I didn't get it in the hands and elbows, but it seemed to make a beeline from the feet right up to my eyes. And over time it started taking a giant toll out of my whole system. I realized right away when I first got the disease that drugs weren't the answer, because I'm very sensitive, and the drugs in my system, I could always, I would always fight against taking them because I could feel them. I could feel the drug kind of overpowering my system, and I knew it was bad. Then sitting in front of Frank, and Frank saying, in 45 minutes explaining that he could cure my disease completely. And he had such confidence about him, and that was the impressive thing to me. And also what he said, his message was quite simple, and it made ultimate sense. It was, you have to eat the proteins. Proteins are what the body's made out of. You got to eat the proteins, you have to synthesize the proteins, and you have to have all the building blocks in your body. And then there can be no disease, and the body heals itself. And so I embarked then on this journey against friends' advice. And within a week, I started into a heavy detox. And I had done a lot of detoxing in the past, but there was no detox like this one. And this one took me and put me to sleep nearly 14 hours every day. I felt really achy, like a kid is achy when it's sick. A lot of processes were changing in my body. Some days I stunk, just things coming out of my skin. Other days I would have a cold sweat at night. Coated tongue, a lot of things were happening. So I knew this was the one, this was doing it. And There was no question in my mind in that regard. And this whole detox thing lasted about a month. And at the end of it, suddenly I had really great energy, and I knew that that heavy part was over with. But I still was limping around. I knew something big had happened. So after 4 months of shots, taking the pills, doing everything Frank said, suddenly one day I woke up, checked my knees, and there was no heat in the knees. And the hallmark of my disease was always heat in the knees, every day heat. And as long as there's heat there, there's inflammation, and that inflammation is eating up those joints. And you just get worse and worse. You're going down, down. And my body started to crumble. This is in the disease mode, but here it stopped at a certain point where, okay, it's holding. The heat's gone, and something happened here. After 2 days, the second day, the heat was still gone. Third day was gone again, and I knew at that time it was gone for good.
Metabolic therapy is about rebuilding every cell in the body. When every cell is healthy, the body is healthy. Building health is what metabolic therapy is all about.
Whenever there is an imbalance or disease in the body, the command center and mainly the hypothalamus have to work overtime in order to correct this deficiency or imbalance in the body. And that, of course, takes out of the command center major energy. And if it is not replenished with the natural ingredients it needs to function, then slowly there will be an imbalance in the limbic system, in the command center, and that is where the disease starts. Diseases start very slowly. They start on a cellular level, and they start because we do not have, or the diseased person, the affected person, does not have 100% protein synthesis. And protein is what all life is about. While I have this book in my hand, I'd just like to show it to you. That's a school book, my wife's school book in Germany for 15, 16-year-old high school students, and 90% of my knowledge is out of this. All I did was I thought simply, and I put it all together and developed the cure and prevention for every disease. Talking about protein, because it's so important, this is a very good book, which is called Nutrition Almanac by Lavon J. Dunn. It's in most health food stores. And they have expressed maybe even better than what I've said all the time. Next to water, protein is the most plentiful substance in the body. Protein is one of the most important elements for the maintenance of good health and vitality, and is of primary importance in the growth and development of all body tissues. It is the major source of building material for muscles, blood, skin, hair, nails, and internal organs, including the heart and the brain. Again here, major source of building material. Protein is needed for the formation of hormones which control a variety of body functions such as growth, sexual development, and rate of metabolism. Protein also helps prevent the blood and tissues from becoming either too acid or too alkaline, and helps to regulate the body's water balance. Enzymes, substances necessary for basic life functions, and antibodies, which help fight foreign substances in the body, are also formed from protein. In addition, protein is important in the formation of milk during lactation and in the process of blood clotting. As well as being the major source of building material for the body, protein may be used as a source of heat and energy, providing 4 calories per gram of protein. However, this energy function is spared when sufficient fats and carbohydrates are present in the diet. During digestion, the large molecules of proteins are decomposed into simpler units called amino acids. Amino acids are necessary for the synthesis of body proteins and many other tissue constituents. They are the units from which proteins are constructed and are the end products of protein digestion. The body requires approximately 22 amino acids in a specific pattern to make human protein. All but 8 of these amino acids can be produced in the adult body. The 8 that cannot be produced are called essential amino acids because they must be supplied by the diet. In order for the body to properly synthesize protein, all the essential amino acids must be present simultaneously and in proper proportions. If just one essential amino acid is low or missing, even temporarily, protein synthesis will fall to a very low level or stop altogether. The result is that all amino acids are reduced in the same proportion as the amino acid that is low or missing. Foods containing protein may or may not contain all the essential amino acids. When a food contains all the essential amino acids, it is termed complete protein. Foods that lack or are extremely low in one or any of the essential amino acids are called incomplete protein. Most meats and dairy products are complete proteins, and it goes on and on. Protein deficiency may lead to abnormalities of growth and tissue development. The hair, nails, and skin especially will be affected, and muscle tone will be poor. A child whose diet is deficient in protein may not attain his potential physical stature. Extreme protein deficiency in children results in, now please help me pronounce this, kwashiorkor, a disease characterized by stunted mental and physical growth, loss of hair pigment, and swelling of the joints. It is often fatal. In adults, protein deficiency may result in lack of vigor and stamina, mental depression, weakness, poor resistance to infection, impaired healing of wounds, and slow recovery from disease. Loss of body protein occurs as a result of particular bodily stress, such as surgery, hemorrhage, wounds, or prolonged illness. At times of stress, it is necessary to consume extra protein. Now, after hearing all this and knowing that these are undisputable biological scientific facts, do I need to say that we should eat more protein? I have a list here out of the school book, how much protein, body protein, not protein wheat, but body protein humans need per kilogram of body weight per day. Babies up to 6 months need 3.5 grams. From 7 to 12 months, 3.0 grams. From 1 to 6 years, 2.5 grams. From 7 to 9 years, 2.0 grams. From 10 to 14 years, 1.8. From 15 to 18 years, 1.5. From 18 to 65, 1.0. And over 65, 1.2. Per day, every day. But it has to be spread out over the day. Protein cannot be stored in the body as protein. When there's excess protein in the body will either use it as energy or the liver will convert it and store it as fat. So rule of the thumb is when somebody is not extremely sick, 3 times a day protein, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When people are sick, especially with mental conditions, you need protein every 2 hours. Protein has different biological values, which means the amount of human protein that under ideal digestive conditions can be made from foreign protein. So from 100 grams of foreign protein, you can make X amount grams of body protein. The egg of the hen, of the chicken, has 94 biological value. That's the highest. Egg is good. Cow milk, if you can take dairy products, if you have been breastfed, if you haven't got too many antibiotics in childhood, then you can take dairy products, has 94%. Beef has 80, casein has 70, potatoes have 71, rice has 68, oats 62, corn 54, and wheat flour has 40. So you can see how different biological value different proteins have.
The cell is bounded by a cell membrane, which not only gives the cell its shape, but also attaches it to other cells. Even more importantly, the cell membrane serves as a gateway to and from the cell, allowing only certain things to pass in either direction, and even actively transporting some things in a selective fashion. It is also the cell membrane that must receive many of the control signals from around the body and transmit these signals to the interior of the cell. Within the cell is the nucleus, which serves as control center by virtue of the fact that DNA is concentrated within it. In this illustration, the blue circle indicates the amount of drug taken. The red circle indicates the severity of the symptom. If there is more drug taken than needed, the excess drug seeps into the tissue and stays there alive, as seen in the right illustration. The excess drug is indicated by the gray shaded area. The interaction of enzymes in the metabolism can be compared with work at the conveyor belt. 2 stencil-like tools dismantle a molecule. They work in pairs, one following the other. Only suitable molecules can be dismantled. In this illustration, the apoenzyme in red and the coenzyme in green can be easily differentiated. There is a groove in the surface of the enzyme. Only molecules that fit into this groove can be dismantled by the active center of the enzyme. This illustration shows the simple structure of a sugar molecule, yet it takes 15 enzymes to dismantle one sugar molecule. Fat molecules are more complicated than sugar molecules, but less complicated than protein molecules. They can be dismantled fairly fast. The protein molecule is the most complicated one. It is therefore the hardest one to digest. It is made up of different amino acids which build a molecule chain. Folding of the chain creates the characteristic form of the different protein molecules. This is the hemoglobin molecule. It is made up of 574 amino acids. They are set in 4 chains, 2 by 141 and 2 by 146.
My therapy is based on the principle that I never try anything. I have too much respect for life to experiment with somebody else's life. I did a lot of experiments on myself, which I can justify. I know what I'm doing. I go into every system with a plan because I know how the body functions. I give an incredible amount of supplements I'm often criticized for, and I love criticism. It's a little challenge. I give up to 250 different pills a day to severely sick patients. They only get so much because they're lacking so much. The rate of assimilation and synthesizing is so low, let's say in the 15–20% range, that you immediately have to give 5 times at least as much in order to get what they need. Also, it is impossible to find out by any means of testing what the body is deficient, because when you run a test analysis or anything, the body may be deficient of something at that time because it has not been synthesized yet. It may be there 5 minutes later. And if it's not there, then we still don't know why it's not there. So I give everything the body needs at any given time, all the time. Just make sure that it's balanced and that I never hit a toxic level on any ingredient. Only ingredients that I give that could become toxic are vitamin A and vitamin D. And vitamin A can only become toxic if you take more than 100,000 units per day for longer than 3 months. Or vitamin D can only become toxic over 30,000 units per day. And I give only 2,000 to 3,000. So I'm always below the toxic level. And don't believe any of the scare tactics of the medical profession, because everything they say is not true, or nothing that they say is true. They're actually being taught that the toxic level of vitamin A is 20,000. They are taught so people don't take it, so that people keep the business going. When the body is deficient and the command center does not work efficiently, then the command center needs energy and needs rebuilding of the metabolism. In 1988, after 17 years of private studies, I found the ingredients, which I call SL, the secret of life, which are very simple over-the-counter ingredients. The combination, the mixture is the secret. Injected intramuscular, they restore balance in the command center. At the same time, I give the body all the nutritional ingredients it needs on a very specific diet, very high on animal protein, chicken and fish, 1 liter of chicken broth made from chicken feet every day, and the body rebuilds itself 1 step at a time. But before the body can rebuild itself major way or in a major league, then the body has to be detoxed first. You wouldn't believe what toxins are in the body deep down in the cell. And that is so extreme in some patients that endless patients who have experienced it cannot believe how extreme and terrible and extreme it can be. When you take the so-called detoxifiers, what they take is they take the toxins out of the space between the cells. What I'm after is in the cell, because that's where the toxins do the damage. That's where the toxins prevent proper protein synthesis, and again, protein synthesis is what it's all about. So this is what we are doing. We are going to detox the body, and then the rest is just very simple. We build it up 1 step at a time with protein synthesis, with all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the fatty acids, and mainly all the enzymes the body needs to break it all down. And it has to be monitored on a daily basis for 12 weeks. And then most people can continue on their own. Interestingly enough, the easiest thing in the world to heal is cancer. Okay, which is also the biggest disease. And how serious this whole situation is, approximately 150,000 people die each year of cancer in Canada. If they all would stand up and reach out their arms like this and would touch fingertips, it would make a line 7,500 kilometers long. It would reach here from here to Montreal and back to here and out into the ocean. And the cure is here. I have the cure for cancer, 100% guaranteed. If stage 1 cancer, a beginning cancer, is so easy that it almost doesn't warrant my time. And I take on any challenge from anybody who wants to seriously challenge me in a proper scientific way.
My name is Peter G. I am 43 years old. Starting in 1971, I had my first symptoms of multiple sclerosis. Between 1987 and 1988, I went from walking to a wheelchair. I started metabolic therapy on September 5th, 1991. Within 3 months, my fatigue was gone and I knew I was on my way to recovery. Today, my health is totally restored and I feel great. Metabolic therapy is a godsend and should be available to everybody.
Without Mr. Frank Ludde, I would either be seriously ill or diseased. Frank Ludde has healed the most serious cases of cancer, leukemia, arthritis, MS, Parkinson's, ALS, manic depression, and others.
In June 1991, I was diagnosed with advanced Hodgkin's disease, cancer of the lymphatic system. I was 42 at the time and knew I had little time left to live. I met the man who discovered metabolic therapy. I started this most astounding therapy immediately and was subsequently completely cured. I have proof of this with x-rays that were taken at another hospital which is not associated with the cancer clinic and therefore did not have a vested interest in my illness. 6 years have passed, and thanks to metabolic therapy, I'm now healthier than I was before the cancer. The therapist and I became friends, and since then I've witnessed miraculous healings. Frank Ludde has healed the most serious cases of cancer, leukemia, arthritis, MS, Parkinson's, ALS, manic depression, and others. All of this with natural ingredients and no drugs.
Metabolic therapy is about rebuilding every cell in the body. When every cell is healthy, the body is healthy. Building health is what metabolic therapy is all about.
And it is hard to believe. One day I woke up and told my wife, look, I found the cure and I think it's the cure for all diseases. And I said, look, if anything happens to me, you go to a good drugstore where they're stocked well and you buy the following ingredients, you mix them and inject me intramuscular. And that's when I started to experiment with myself. I had the basic knowledge how to balance the limbic system, which is the actual cause for any disease process. It's the body's command center. It contains within the limbic system the hypothalamus, thalamus, hypothalamus, and pituitary gland, in that order down. And the first patient I treated over there in a township called Aranyapate, eastern Thailand, at the border of Cambodia, where all those refugee camps were. I think in English he called Cambodia. And this man has had a brain tumor, heavy radiation, and the radiation caused a very serious leukemia, which was terminal. They sent him from the Bangkok hospital home to die. When I got there, and the people got me there, he was almost dead. He was almost cold. As a matter of fact, the village people were sitting there waiting for the funeral arrangements to start. Funeral arrangements with a lot of alcohol. I stopped everybody, gave him 2 injections, one left, one right, and bang. After 2 weeks, this man could get up. I don't know how he's doing today, but if he kept on the program, he should be 100% okay. For about a year, I healed the most incredible cases of cancer, MS, chronic fatigue, diabetes, and so on.
Every so often in our history, a few exceptionally gifted individuals grab the attention of mankind. They do so because they have pioneered a breakthrough in some critical area of life. And they do so because they so firmly believe in what they have to offer that they are prepared to expose themselves to widespread scrutiny. Frank Ludde is one such man, and I have seen him openly welcome a full examination of his therapy. Those who may be afraid to believe that a cure can exist because their doctor and everyone else has said it's not possible should remind themselves that health is their natural state.
My name is Peter G. I am 43 years old. Starting in 1971, I had my first symptoms of multiple sclerosis. Between 1987 and 1988, I went from walking to a wheelchair. I started metabolic therapy on September 5th, 1991. Within 3 months, my fatigue was gone and I knew I was on my way to recovery. Today, my health is totally restored and I feel great. Metabolic therapy is a godsend and should be available to everybody.
Without Mr. Frank Ludde, I would either be seriously ill or diseased. Frank Ludde has healed the most serious cases of cancer, leukemia, arthritis, MS, Parkinson's, ALS, manic depression, and others.
In June 1991, I was diagnosed with advanced Hodgkin's disease, cancer of the lymphatic system. I was 42 at the time and knew I had little time left to live. I met the man who discovered metabolic therapy. I started this most astounding therapy immediately and was subsequently completely cured. I have proof of this with x-rays that were taken at another hospital which is not associated with the cancer clinic and therefore did not have a vested interest in my illness. 6 years have passed, and thanks to metabolic therapy, I'm now healthier than I was before the cancer. The therapist and I became friends, and since then I've witnessed miraculous healings. Frank Ludde has healed the most serious cases of cancer, leukemia, arthritis, MS, Parkinson's, ALS, manic depression, and others. All of this with natural ingredients and no drugs.
Metabolic therapy is about rebuilding every cell in the body. When every cell is healthy, the body is healthy. Building health is what metabolic therapy is all about.